Hello, hello. Good morning, afternoonish, evening, kind of, all of the above. It's time. It's time for the pre-match. Give us Doge. Which Doge? Gotta be careful talking about Doge in the USA these days. What kind of Doge are we talking about here? But yes. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome. How you doing? Good morning for some of you still, I presume. Um, The Muppet Man? The Muppet Man, yeah. Afternoon, good evening. Yeah, it's here. How you guys feeling about tonight? How you guys feeling about tonight? Got a few I got some interesting feelings about everything. I'm a little bit I had a lot of confidence ahead of Sociedad. I had this really good feeling. I don't necessarily have that feeling today, but let's see when the lineup comes out. I hope we see some continuity in things because I think it would help in there. But I don't. I feel like I kind of also feel like we're looking at a situation like you know where you had like Sociedad and you had like the Spanish club Zubamendi. No offense, Zubamendi, and then we played them and it was like these guys are unbelievably mid. And it's really tough, right? It's really, really tough because when you look at other leagues, it's really, really hard to know how they compare to United. You know what I mean? And to the English league, to the Premier League. Not that we've been bad. I mean, we've been good recently. We've been good recently. I actually think our performances have been decent. We should have won. We should be winning our games. We're still good in Europe. We get a little bit more time. So I'm kind of confident in that respect. Like I think it'll be um, yeah, Bilbao I think are the toughest team left. Quite honestly, for sure, for sure, for sure. I think they're the toughest team left at this point in time. But we always say things like that too. Lineup will come out in a minute. We can yap a little bit about other things too. Some talk about Hojlund. Some talk about Hojlund going to leaving, which I didn't want to get too much into ahead of a game, but some talk about Hojlund potentially leaving, potentially being sold to Italy. We could talk about some of that. There's some Cunha stuff, but then there's a story that Newcastle are going to move him up at the top of their list. I did a video this morning kind of researching my hypothesis on I did a video on that, on the striker front, on what we should get. You know what I mean? Like what we should get this summer, the risks, things like that. What breed is my dog? I have two here. Come here. German Shepherd. Hold on. Take turns. And a Doberman. The German Shepherd, she's like 8 now. And he's still a puppy. He's only almost 2. Okay. But yeah. So yeah, lots of stuff kind of ongoing. But yeah, honestly, I feel like what's my proposal for the striker situation? Well, I think that in general, one, I would like to get an Aussie man in, no doubt about that. But alternatively, I think that I'm a little more okay with a plan if it's like say Delap and another player coming in next summer. More likely, or what I would also be okay with is if we went like Delap and Acuna. Because it doesn't necessarily, there are instances, there's precedent for not having a super established number 9 and being successful, but at the same time, in most of those cases, they had another forward who was a top goal scorer, like a real direct goal scorer. You know what I mean? And yeah, and so in that instance, I'm more lean. That is a something I would be more happy with as well, though I have doubts on Cunha. But, Mbumo is quite decent as well. I quite like him. That's okay. As well as another option. The thing the thing that the thing that throws me a little bit is that on this is like when I looked into the strikers that were successful in their transfers, and you have to bear in mind what I mean by successful. I meant they moved in a few instances, like Zlatan for Barcelona, right? It wasn't like an amazing fit. His output was still great, and even though he left quickly, he was obviously a good player, a successful player that continued. All right, what do we got? Ooh, oh my God, why Garnacho just going to be shoved down our throat every game? It's the same thing, though, isn't it? It's the same lineup as Sunday, is it not? Is this the first time we haven't had a change? It's the same lineup as Sunday, is it not? Here, I'll pull it up. Give me 2 seconds. I'll put it on the screen. Is this not the same? Yeah, it's the unchanged side against City, same team. Here we go. Same as City, and I had a feeling. I mentioned this on Sunday that it's an interesting game. It kind of gives us a City versus Lyon. We can kind of play them the same way. Lyon is not a transition threat. They are a possession team. Hojlund's in the team, Hamza. So try to read a little bit closer, my friend. Maybe that's why you can't see how good Ugarte is. Your eyes don't work. Same team as Sunday. It's pretty similar, City, and it's pretty it's a pretty similar thing, City and Lyon in stylistic format. Like their front line has some good technical quality, some good abilities, but they're not a transitional threat. And what that means is we can kind of play it the same way. I think we'll do well with this. I'm really, really happy to see the Casemiro-Ugarte partnership again. And I'm really happy to see that Amorim is recognizing what is working. Now, Mainu is in the squad, which we expected as he was traveling. Kamason in the squad. Kukonki in the squad. Morehouse in the squad. Mount in the squad. Look at the bench. Look at the bench. Look at the bench there. We actually have some players on the bench. Thank God. Shaw, Eriksson, Mainu, Morehouse, Mount, Xerxes. I mean, we've got players on the bench. But yeah, this is what we expected for the lineup, right? That we would be about the same type of thing. You think Xerxes leaves? No. I think it's matchup dependent, and I think he's gonna be a backup 10. You guys, like, we're allowed to have backups. We're allowed to have rotational players. Xerxes is a good player. He can start some games at 10. He can come off of the bench, make an impact. He's been good in that role. We are allowed to have rotation. We are allowed to have depth. We are allowed to have that in this United team. He doesn't have to be sold. We only bought him for 35 million. It's fine. If he ends up being good depth, I'm okay with that. If he, long term, he's going to anyway. Long term, he's going to anyway because we buy a new striker. Ahmad gets in here. Bruno gets in here. Well, he's going to be a backup. He's going to be a backup 10. I've told you before, Bruno's future is at a 10. Bruno's future is here in the 10. You will see it. You will see it in the long term. His future is forward. Garnacho is not the future starter. Garnacho will be a bench player too. He will be a bench player too. Yeah, I think Xerxes will be used, sparingly at the 9, but I think for the most part he will be a 10. In moving forward, we're allowed to have some players who are good in different rotational settings, different positions, different play styles, all of that. Who's going to start instead of Garnacho and Hojlund? Who's going to start instead? Mount, he probably doesn't trust for fitness yet. Would you? Mount, you start him, you're forced to make a change at 20 minutes, your whole game plan changes. That's what happens every time he starts. You could argue Xerxes, but he's a entirely different profile than League One, This is what we've got. Hojlund is better in the Europa League because there's more spaces. There's more spaces for him. There's just more spaces for him. It's been this way for a long time. There's more spaces for him to play. You want to have a little bit of pace and directness. And again, I tell you, look at it like the City game. Look at it like the City game. Terrible typing there. If you look at it like the City game, we're going to be okay with them having a ball a little bit, getting behind the ball, and then hitting them at times in transition. We're going to be okay with being allowed to transition in attack as well. And it's all good. I like Xerxes though. I would have liked Xerxes to start instead of Garnacho. Personally, I think that Bruno, Xerxes, Hojlund would be better. However, listen to me on this. Bruno and Xerxes are really, really similar players. Bruno and Xerxes are really, really similar players. Amorim likes his 10s to be different. Yes, correct, Francisco. Francisco, exactly. I agree with you. He likes them to bring something different to the table. So if you look at it from a balance standpoint, Bruno's kind of your third midfielder, where Xerxes, when he plays in the 10, he does the same thing. He does the same thing. He drops into the midfield, makes a 3, same as Bruno does. And that's good, but it's the same job. It's the same job. If you were to sign players, you would want kind of an attacking direct player in place of Garnacho, who is actually good, and you want a striker in a similar mold who can also run. So if you put in like Delapin and Bruno, it's the same balance. It's just better players. If you put it as Bruno, Cunha, Delap, it's the same balance. It's just better players. Look at the matching profiles. That's the continuity he wants. I think Xerxes. I would have liked to see Xerxes play. I would personally. I would like to see Xerxes play. Is Cunha very different? He is. He is in that he's very, very, very good at running and carrying with the ball, and he can be very, very direct. Very, very direct. But there's also the continuity aspect. Of playing what we've gone for. Look, I've got my own opinions. I understand what he's going for. That's all. All the talk about positions and tactics, but Hojlund and Garnacho are shit. Play what do you want? Doesn't matter. So you don't have a choice. Xerxes and Mount can come on and make an impact. Xerxes and Mount will come on and make an impact. So Mainu too, perhaps, right? To bring us something different. And that'll give us good options off the bench to change the game. But remember, we're playing away as well. We are playing away as well. Yeah. We are. I watched Due and oh, trust me, dude. Look, all of this talk, all of this shit. This is why I get so irritated by them, even by the midfield stuff at the end of the day. Look at these teams play. All right. I'm not saying they don't have good midfielders, and I'm not saying all that. Watch PSG's goals. You could put our players in those front three with their midfield, their defense, all of that. We would never score in a million years. Ever, 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 ever. Because we will not score the goals they did. Was Doué's like this brilliant team play? No, it's an insane shot. They're all these insane goals. We will not score those goals. You look at Barcelona doing the same thing. Our forwards will not score those goals. I don't care what the rest of the team looks like. Our forwards will not score those goals. The rest of the team and structures controls the game, puts them in the right position to succeed, puts them in the right position to control, and then their attackers are on another planet. And that is what is missing at United, because we've controlled plenty of games. We've had possession plenty of games. Look at Forest, look at City, look at Arsenal even. The number of games where we can actually sit there and say, we've gotten into great attacking positions. Our forwards can't do shit. I rewatched that City game on Monday on the replay, and Phil and I talked about this. Rasmus Hojlund's positional play and instincts as a striker are among the worst I've ever seen. Unfortunately, they are among the worst I've ever seen. He has absolutely no instinctive prediction for anything on the pitch. And it's like, it doesn't matter what we do when people are doing that, especially in possession when you're facing against a box of a lot of players and such. It's crazy. It's so bad. Um, in the attack, you will always have moments players. That's not really the issue. The issue is about how do you sustain and create those chances. How do you sustain and create those things? But the two players who we have on our team who can do that, are Bruno and Ahmad, who have shown that they have that level of ability where, yes, it's all within a system. It's all within a system. Of course it is. And systems help that, tactics help that, all of that. But you still have those kind of like key moment where here's the thing, right? Systems create situations. Amarim speaks about situations a lot. Systems create situations, okay? Situations. The players then have to be really good at executing upon and taking advantage of those situations. That's where ours are terrible. We have a lot of we have a team that actually has created a lot of good situations if you watch the games. How many times did we make good situations against City, right? How many times did we have the ball in a good spot? We had an overload. We had a wing back running by, all of that, right? All of those things, good situations. And then what happens? We don't pass to the wing back and go for a shit shot. What happens? We put the ball in the box and nobody's anywhere near it. You know, there are it's brilliant striker play when a striker dives in front of a player, gets the touch and finishes it incredibly, but the situation was created by the system. So that is the difference. The PSG create plenty of very good situations with their system. But at the same time, when it comes to then finishing those situations, unbelievable, on another planet. We can't compete with that right now, and we just don't have players who do it. They make the wrong decision every time practically, you know? And it's not about age. I mean, it's what's insane to when people talk about age and development. This is why I sit there and I go, please, please, like I cannot keep hearing about Garnacho's potential. He's played 3,000 more minutes than Due, 1,000, 1,500 more minutes than Barcola. Like, come on, man. This is talent, and players who really have it, you see it. You see it when they play. You can see it. You don't have to guess, especially in the forward positions, midfield, center backs, these things. Sometimes that takes time. Players are mistake prone, all of that kind of stuff. But goddamn, um, you know, it's different. It's very, very different. So yeah, we need forwards. We really just need forwards. End of the day, there's nothing else to it but that. We just need forwards. Cunha is a must. I don't know if he is personally, but I like the player. There's no doubt about that. I like the player. Um, but if you take this team and you go, oh, I hate this team. This team is so shit. Oh, it's trash. I hate everything about this team. And then ooh, that's the wrong one. Amadou Onana. If you take this team and suddenly you plug those two players in, they'll score goals. A lot of goals. A lot of goals. I guarantee you that. That front three will score bags and bags of goals. They really will. Conversely, as an alternative, you know, if you were to do this, um, and something like this team would also score a lot of goals. Um, you know, and you can rattle on about the system all you want, but tell me this and ask me this. Answer me this question. If we had Osimhen instead of Hojlund, if we had Osimhen instead of Hojlund, how many more games would we have won? Because I can count at least 5 where just absolutely god awful striker plays cost us a win. At least 5. Now, how many would you if you had Cunha instead of Garnacho? Because I can count at least 5 more where Garnacho has wasted every possible opportunity. You probably have 15 to 20 points in addition with those kinds of changes, because it's not like we haven't had positions to score goals in. We haven't had positions to attack. We haven't had positions to do things. We've had plenty. We've had plenty. I think we'd win quite a lot more. I think we'd have a lot more points in that instance. And then you can start to talk about the other situations and things like that. So, we'll see. Um, yeah. I mean, if Ahmad was here, you look at how many times was he scoring goals in good situations. Honestly, how many times was Ahmad before his injury scoring goals in good situations that nobody else is scoring since? It doesn't happen. He has so many goals. He pulls out the goal against City. He pulls out the goals against Southampton. He pulls the goals out from situations that we create that the other players do not make. He pulls off the goals from those situations, but he's the only one who does it. He's the only one. And so that is what is hurting us most of all. But look, like I said, my biggest concern right now is if we go in like this, I think Delap is going to flounder trying to lead the line. It was really interesting looking into the games, like into the transfers, from between the age of 23 and 30, and seeing that the vast majority of strikers are successful when they transfer. I don't know where the idea comes from that they're not. Most established strikers transfer and continue to be ultimately very successful. Most of them. The ones that fail, the ones that have one good season, almost one for one, that are expected to come in and lead the line. It's a serious concern. I really cannot get beyond it. It really, really worries me. It kind of blows my mind. Like, it is a real concern. And I don't know, it bothers me a lot for next season. If that is all we end up with, I think Delap will fail at United, because they all do. And we will be buying another player to lead the line. Most transfers are luck, though. Don't think that's true at all. I don't want to hear the thing about the not guaranteed thing. I think is bullshit. I think that strikers are pretty well guaranteed when they are established players and they join it. Most strikers are, funnily enough, the most consistent position in football. When a striker is good, they're good. And when they've established themselves as good and they transfer, they're good. Does that mean I don't like Delap? No, it's a completely different situation. It's a completely different situation. It's not about him. It's about the reality of it. You can't do if the player flops, then we're in trouble, because the fact is you have a higher flop rate with young players by far than you do with buying established players. It's just you can afford more misses. But at the end of it, it depends on the position. The fact of the matter is, I've not had anybody be able to name me a single example of a number 9 off one good season under the age of 23 coming to a big club to lead the line and succeeding. Not one in 20 years. Not one. Literally, it's never happened. It does not happen. It doesn't. I get that. I get that under the lap sentiment. Yep. I watched Darwin Nunez for a year at Benfica, and I was sure he would do well, and so were Liverpool. And then they brought him in to lead the line, and he failed entirely. You're correct, Dan. There are a few examples, and one of the only examples, is Osimhen at Napoli, funnily enough, the other player that we should be looking at. He's one of the only examples I could find of an under-23 player going and having a successful season. Benzema did not join to lead the line when he was there. When he joined, Higuain and Ronaldo were there scoring goals. People forget about Higuain. And when Higuain joined, there was Van Nistelrooy and Raul. Or when he got, I don't remember where the hell Higuain came from, but that you had older players leading. Hojlund, not one season. He is another good example of a young player who made it. 3 good seasons at Dortmund, including the Champions League games in that time. He was well established and also probably generational. You know, it's like I'm serious, man. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. There were a few flops. There were a few flops from players who were established. Um, Rooney, Welbeck, and Rashford, those are not good examples, my man. How did Welbeck develop so well? What do you mean by that? Look at who was ahead of Rooney. I'm talking about leading the line. I'm talking about leading the line. And Rashford arguably has had his entire career completely damaged by not having older players to lead in front of him and going through the chaos that we've had at United. Rooney had so many players over him, and he didn't even lead the line for ages. Napoli's done crazy on their center forwards. They've done crazy on that. Cavani at Napoli. Where did Cavani come from? You might be right about that. Because I was looking at like transfers and things. Let me look at Cavani's stats real quick. I'm curious about that. He was 20. He had 4 seasons in Serie A. Okay, bear that in mind. He had already played 4 seasons in Serie A. Cavani. Before going to Napoli. He was really good when he did explode when he reached Napoli, for what it's worth. But he did have 4 full seasons from Palermo and in Serie A, right? So he was already in a team in the top flight for 4 years before making that switch. But yeah, not 1 season, 4. Drogba had 2 and he was 26, you know. But Cavani was really good when he came from Palermo, yeah, and he'd been there a few years already. Yeah. Big clubs buy their strikers. That's just the truth of it. Big clubs buy their strikers. Michael Owen, he was at Liverpool at 16 years old. Was he leading the line from the academy? And who was at striker ahead of him in those early years? How old was Lukaku at Everton? Lukaku transferred to Everton was a good example of success, but they weren't really like a big club. So, you know, you could find plenty if you start looking at players who went to like Southampton and, you know, things like that. You know what I mean? But he went from West Brom to Everton and did pretty well at a young age, leading the line. But he'd also, you have to bear in mind, Lukaku like had 3 years at Anderlecht in the Belgian Pro League, 2 years, I guess, successfully before transferring, and then at West Brom, and then Everton. Like he'd actually been pretty productive in general. Fowler had Rush, Owen had Robbie Fowler, right? Like you see that, like they do this staggered thing, right? They do this like yeah, I know he was at Chelsea, played like 100 minutes. They do this really staggered thing. Like I noticed that with Madrid. They did it with like they went from like Raul and then they're getting Van Nistelrooy and then they bring in Higuain and then they bring in Ronaldo and then they bring in Benzema and they always have 2. They always have like a young and an old and a young and an old, and when the young gets old then they buy a next one, and that's what most big clubs do. They get an established striker who wins and they get a young one under them, and then they develop the young one, sell the old one, and buy a new young one. And you always have players. None of them develop a young number 9 to lead their line. They just don't. You know, it is a serious concern. And every time they're asked to do it at a big club, the player fails. Right now, yeah, Mbappe and Endrick. And Mbappe's now transferred. He's not even it's kind of funny to think of Mbappe because he's not even a young player anymore. Obviously, he's super established. But imagine if Endrick had to come in and lead the line now. Imagine that shit. Would he succeed? No. He would absolutely fucking implode. He would absolutely fucking implode if Endrick had to come in and lead the line at Real Madrid today. You know? He absolutely would. At one point, Real Madrid had Ronaldo, Raul, and Michael Owen. Yeah. It's not that I don't like Delap. It's not that he's not going to be better than Hojlund. He totally is. But will he develop into the player we need? I don't know about that. We already no, I'm not talking about Igalo. That was a loan. I'm not talking about Igalo. I'm talking about getting a good established striker. Or alternatively, you need a really good established goal scoring forward alongside a young striker. You know, that is the point. Every big club buys their striker. I don't know what to tell you guys. They buy them as established players. I went looking to prove myself wrong on this, and I could not. And I have yet to find a way to prove myself wrong on it. It's a concern. It's a serious concern. It is. Now, if we get Delap and then next year we buy a goal scorer, that's fine. I think we could make it for a year, because it would be an improvement. If we get Delap and then in a year sell Rasmus and buy a more established another forward, then I think that would help a lot. If we buy Delap and we get a Cunha or an Mbumo, I think that would help a lot. I'm okay with that. You see, I'm not like being obtuse about this. It's just the reality of it. We need someone else to take off the leadership, the goal scoring in there. If we don't, will that be your first criticism? I've had plenty of criticisms of them. Like I've said many times, I completely did. Yeah, and Fabrizio was talking about Napoli interested in Rasmus. The thing is the money. I don't think we could sell him for 44 million this summer to get him off the books. I don't think we can. However, could we loan obligation 30 million so they can so that we could get him off next summer? I don't know. It just depends. Could we afford it? Like if we got Champions League, okay? If we got Champions League, then I think we would look at potentially moving on Hojlund, getting a second one. Simx, sorry, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Simx Football. Hey, we agree. Finally, we need experienced striker. 100%. I'm really okay with young players in many positions. There's a lot of teams that's been successful with that. But at the number 9, it is almost inarguable that you need experience at the number 9. And I changed my stance on this based on looking at the reality of it. Because I cannot find history. I like to look at precedent. I like to look at success. I think there's teams that have done really well with young players in certain positions, not at the 9, not leading the team. And I the more I look into it, the worse I feel about it. But then again, on that question on Napoli and Hojlund, you're right. If somehow it results in an Osimhen deal, they might be more willing to do something on it. It's possible. Delap for 30 million is too good not to go for. And look, at 30 million pounds, it's not a deal I'm against at all. He's a very good player. That's really not the point. The point is there is still a matter of experience and age when you go to a big club. And I don't care how bad United are. You tell me right now that when we play Everton approach us the same as when Ipswich play Everton. You're a liar if you think that's true, right? There's no way. You watch those games. We play against Everton. They're pressing from minute 1 for 90 minutes. Rah, rah, attack on the, it's a big ass game for them. Not the same when Ipswich play them. You don't face teams that treat every game the same when you're as you do when you're Manchester United. You just don't. You don't get the games like we've had against Palace and Bournemouth where they're like on another planet compared to how they are usually. It's been like this forever. Every game you play at United is a whole different experience than it is at a different club. And there are positions you can get away with that, and there are positions you can't. And that it's a really, really different world. So, yeah, we will see. But yeah, for today's Bodo Glimt is currently out playing Lazio. I mean, we've beaten Bodo Glimt, right? It kind of shows you the level of the Europa League in general. I don't think it's that high. Having an experienced number 9 takes pressure off everyone else. Gives exactly, because the thing is that somebody who can just get goals, just fucking get goals here and there, makes a big difference. So I like D-Lap for 30 million. He actually makes a ton of sense for 30 million. It's great value. Great value. But from a team dynamics perspective, I think you need someone else in addition. You have to get someone else on top. That's my point. It's because otherwise it's just too much pressure for a young player who's never had to deal with that. That's my opinion. It has very little to do with the individual. So there's that. There's talk of Cunha, right? There's talk of Cunha. There's talk of meetings. United have certainly been interested, but there's also a story that Newcastle are making him a top target. And I think that is concerning, but you can kind of look at it. Cunha plus Isak would be a hell of a balance up there. You know, Jonathan David on a free. I just don't like Jonathan David, but it's all right. Yeah, I thought so. The first time we've had an unchanged team. Yep, that's what I thought. Amarim's clearly been going for continuity recently out of the international break. He wanted some continuity, no doubt about that. Bad team performance, but scoring goals, what Madrid did for 1 decade. That's how they've won the fucking Champions League so many times. How many times Madrid, I mean, obviously they got absolutely fucking battered by Arsenal the other day, right? But how many times have we watched them play shit and then they just score some goals and win? So many times. So many times. And look, it's like I said, it's not about D-Lap for me, because I said it in my video. I feel the same about Ekitike, Sheshko, Agahawa. I like Agahawa way more than D-Lap. I would still have the exact same concerns about a young player, because I was a big fan of Darwin Nunez before he came from Benfica. And I look at it and I say he was asked to lead the line at Liverpool, and he actually scored a lot of goals and assists in his first season. He had like 30 goals and assists total. But at the same time, you could see it getting to him, leading the line at Liverpool there. Too much pressure on him, and he started to struggle, and it's been getting worse and worse, and he's fallen off. And it's not like I'm sitting here saying Darwin is like this insane player, but Darwin Nunez at Benfica was an unbelievable goal scorer. His finishing was like his best trait. His finishing was his best trait, though. He was a great finisher, and he was very physical. He's got the dog in him. Like, people are saying there's a difference between Delap and Hojlund. I don't care. He had instinct. He was a hard runner. His finishing was incredible. He scored some absolutely beautiful goals and some scrappy ones. And then his finishing is his worst trait at Liverpool. He's actually a better goal creator than he is a goal scorer. The pressure, it's just pressure. It's just pressure. Yeah, he wasn't necessarily a good fit, but I look at that and I think, it's also just pressure. He's got a mental block on scoring goals. You can see it. When he gets into like these goal scoring positions and the goal is too easy and he has any time to think, he fucks it up. It's a mental problem, but that happens to young players when they go to big clubs, and the pressure is really ramped up. And it was like Klopp's final season. I think it kind of broke him. I think he'll go somewhere else, like maybe Nottingham Forest, for example, and do extremely well. That doesn't make him a top player. It just means, sometimes that happens. I always remember Sir Alex's comments about Leeds cheating their manage by trying more against United than other teams. It happens everywhere, Glenn. Right. You're totally right. And he talked about that. Like, come on, it's always been like this for us, hasn't it? It's been this way forever. So yeah. So look, we'll see though. But I gotta say, as far as I've heard, it is far from certain that that Rasmus Hojlund does necessarily stay at United this summer. They're not happy with him. They're not happy with how he's developing. They have this as far as I hear, they have the same concerns that I do, which is that they will only have one player and they will not have enough options still, even if they add Delap. And that is a concern. That is a concern that they have. That's a concern that I have. That's a concern there. And that if they could move Hojlund, they probably would. And yeah, and so we'll have to see how that ties into everything come the end of the season. If there's a route out for him, it opens the door to a lot more. And obviously, it means we can add more goals. No, I think Xerxes fine. I think Xerxes will be where he is. Hojlund goes replaced by Delap and then another right, and that is a possibility. Now, whether that's between this summer and next, I firmly believe that is the plan. From everything I've heard, that what they would like is to move Hojlund, get Delap, and another top goal scorer. Whether that can all happen this summer, I don't know. If it can happen between this summer and next summer, fine, because I think we could make do for a year with an improvement from Delap, and then the next year do it again. And then have a squad, have Ahmad and a young player and Bruno and Delap and another top goal scorer in there. Then I feel like we have the attacking options that we need. So between this summer and next, the plan is to do that. Right now, if Rasmus Hojlund's form turns around like crazy, obviously that would be different. Nothing's 100%, set in stone, but that is the plan. That is their ideal plan, I suppose. If I was to say what they would accomplish if they could, but it requires a willing buyer this summer. That's the problem. And then potentially, obviously, depends on things like Champions League. James, we all want Amarim to succeed, but if he doesn't, do you think the players we buy will fit with a new manager? Yeah, I'm really not worried about the fit aspect of it. Yeah. Sancho with 2 assists. Any news for him? Is he doing well now? His second assist of the night. Oh, okay. Gonna keep United fans a little bit quiet. I really haven't heard anything about Sancho. I still think he's just gonna be gone one way or another, and I'm not too worried about it at the moment. Did we ruin Hojlund? I don't know. I don't know that we did or didn't, but I do know that he's probably never had a chance coming in and leading a line. Historically, it just doesn't work. It's always a failure in the end. So I don't know what he could have become. I don't know that he was that great at the start. I mean, again, he wasn't a 72 million player. He should have been bought for 40 or 30. But still, I don't know what he could have become. We don't know. Great stream, James. Thanks. And that's probably Sully right there. Have you talked about the Kamara news? There you go. Relevant question to that. No, but we spoke about it in a previous one, but Sully put something in about today that we're pushing on it. This is as far as like I talked to Sully about this, and I think we both think this would be like kind of like a Kone type signing, and we know we want to do a few more of those this summer to bring in players who can come into the under 21s and take a little bit of time and then get in the team for the future. Like keep adding up the building the players that can come through the youth ranks later and keep adding top talent to that. Now, maybe he'll be ready sooner. Our forwards are not that good, but we both kind of see it that way. So that's an exciting one, a good story from Sully, and hopefully with something we can get done to do that. Obviously, it's an advantage here. We were kind of talked about this recently, right? Like how we have this advantage right now because we're shit. So you look at someone like Kamara, you say, hey, who are you competing with? Garnacho. All right, you're going to be in the team within 18 months. Whereas you're at PSG, you're competing with Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, Doué. When are you getting in that team? Never. Not happening. They're young. They're going to be there for a long time. And it presents an opportunity for us to recruit these kids and say there is a pathway to the first team for you. You have a chance at being the guy here. That, it's a different chance. Yeah, I've heard a lot about that name too. I can't say anything myself about him though. So, but yeah. Good options. But look, this is an opportunity. This is a point we have because pathways into the first team are so vital. So vital. So it's exciting times. Anything else I wanted to discuss today? Yeah, watch the video earlier. I'm doing the watch along starting in just about 30 minutes. On Big Up Below. They've added a feature, by the way, in case you've wanted to go over there and it's kind of annoying to make an account, yada, yada, yada. I talked to them about this before. It's added now. You should be able to go and sign in with your Google account. Okay. And that means so like an easy sign in. So if you come join me on YouTube and you like it because it's easy to join here, you've got your Gmail account, all that is fine, right? It's just as easy to go join on Big Up. You don't have to make like a new thing. You can just log in with your Gmail. So that's the feature they've added, which I thought would be really smart because I think sometimes we're all a bit lazy and we like, I'd like to join, but I don't want to go make it and sign up for a new account, and you just don't, you know. But anyway, I hope to see you guys over there because the watch alongs have been a lot of fun and enjoyable recently. And I lost my mind after I absolutely lost my shit. I rarely do. I'm usually quite calm and composed, as you know. I lost my during the matches. There is the only time I think I can ever say I lose my shit once in a while, and it's very rare. But I think what was it? What was the game we had? Was it It was Forest, I think it was. I think it was Garnacho against Forest. I completely lost it, man. But anyway, it's not an act. It's 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 just the passion of the. It's a different world watching the matches. I can say that. Great show as same as always, James. Cunha and Dibbling or Must gets the season 2-0 United tonight. There you go, Anthony. Thank you for that. Yeah, the Nottingham game with Garnacho's generational performance. Oh man, it definitely broke something in me for the first time in probably a year. Um, but thank you guys. I look forward to seeing hopefully most of you over there. Tomorrow, obviously, I'll be back with a normal live pre-match show, all of that kind of stuff. And hopefully we'll have something positive to talk about from tonight. Okay. Thank you all. Good luck. Let's hope United can get the win tonight. Huge, huge games. Look at what Fab said on Cunha. What did he say on Cunha? Was it just now? I don't see it. I don't see it. But yeah, unless I see it in a second, I'll end it here. Thank you guys. See you later. Have a good one. Goodbye and good luck. Enjoy the game. All right, yeah, I'm gonna end it. I'll talk about it tomorrow if there's something. See you later, guys. Yes, IR, you can go back and rewatch the Forest game on there. It has the VODs of everything. Go to the last like 20 minutes to see one of the only times I've ever actually genuinely crashed out on stream, okay? And you will see it. Um oh yeah, he was playing it down, right? Yeah. So he's saying we're not negotiating. That's what I thought. There's more to the Newcastle things. There was more to the Newcastle thing because he was already saying that Cunha's agent is always in England anyway, and so it wasn't like any new news, and he's actually in and all of that. So the bigger story is that